Hi, and welcome to Pam Branch Designs. Today I'm going to be making an ornament out of air dry clay. I'm going to start by kneading the clay and conditioning it, and then I'm going to roll it out to the right thickness by having 2 craft sticks on either side of the clay as I roll it out with a roller. The roller that I'm using is just the center of a roll of paper that I received, and I can only use this so many times because it is paper, but I like to just use whatever I have handy in my crafting. After I have the clay rolled out to the right thickness, then I use my cookie cutter to cut out my circle shape. And then after I have that shape, then I use a straw to cut a small circle into the clay. And now I'm just using a little bit of water on my finger to smooth out the clay. Okay, so the ornament is dry and it is ready to be decoupaged. Now I have these 2 sample sizes of my hummingbird paper, and I'm going to use the hummingbird and flowers from this one and just the flowers from this one. So what it's going to look like, and then I'll just save this hummingbird to use for something else. So when it's on the clay, the goal is for it to look like that on the clay, and then to have these flowers on this side. It's probably hard to sort of frame the hummingbird. All right. So, and this is rice paper. So in order to sort of cut the rice paper, I'm going to just use a little bit of water that I have over here in my little tray. And I think I got this little tray at Dollar Tree, probably these little brushes too. Let's see. What I'm gonna do with this one is just take the hummingbird off of this so that I can just use the flowers. I'm gonna try to go not too heavy with the water. So what I'll do is just basically outline the hummingbird with the water. I'm trying not to put too much water. It spreads pretty quick. I don't want to ruin my hummingbird. This helps to just break up the fibers of the paper a bit so that I can then just sort of tear away at the paper. I could use scissors, but I don't want to leave like sort of a line on the paper. I want it to be more of an edge that's more rough, more sort of jagged. And when you wet the paper, that loosens up the fibers, and then it just tears away a lot easier than if it was dry. So what I'll do with this hummingbird is I'll just set that to the side. It'll dry and be fine. Then I can use that for another project. And so my hummingbird is here, and then it's going to be sort of framed like this on my air dry clay disc. So I'm going to use a little decoupage glue. I'm using matte Mod Podge, and it's going to be sort of like this. I want to get as much as these flowers as possible, and of course I want to take off my little copyright thing there. So I'll use a little water to take that away. Don't want to use too much. I'm just taking away some of this extra with the writing on it. Just using my thumb, just kind of picking away at that. And then this top sort of border, I'm gonna take that off. And again, I could cut it, but I don't want to leave like a harsh line because I want it to really blend in well with my base. And this edge, let's see, should be fine. If I'm just gonna be going like that, just push it over to the side just a little, then that should be fine. I think what I'll do is just take off a little of this excess paper so that my edge can be blend in better with my clay. Rip away at some of this. Just going gently along. All right, and so this border is going to be hanging off the side. I'm going to be getting rid of that anyway. So I think it'll go like this. Want the hummingbird to be sort of in the center. And I think that looks good like that. So what I'll do is, I've got my decoupage glue here and here. And since that's positioned the way I want it, now rice paper is a little more forgiving than tissue paper. So once I get it down, I could shift it around a little bit, meaning the paper, but I'd rather just have it where I want it, put it down once to just prevent any possibility of ripping it. So I'm just lifting it up and then just pressing it back down just lightly, because my goal is to have that blend in nicely with the clay underneath. I'm just going to lift up the other side, get a little more glue, lifting up the other side. I want to make sure that I get under that crease, but I don't want to crease it. I don't want to crease my rice paper. And then I'm just going to put this back down. I'm just smoothing it out gently with my finger. Now you could also use a little bit of plastic wrap, like this, and just so you can smooth it out without worrying about you know, ripping your paper. And I think this also helps to prevent wrinkles. This is just a little bag that I have laying around, or you can use like your saran wrap, your wrap from your kitchen that you use to wrap your food. So that looks really good. Making sure I don't have any bubbles. I don't think I do. All right, so that looks good. And so I think I wanted the hummingbird to be more centered, but I think it's fine like that. When they're flying, they're not centered. Anyway, that's corny. All right, so let's just keep moving. Here is the other side of that other paper, and I'm thinking I'm gonna take off a little more paper here. Just making that a little wet so that can come off. And so this can go, should it go here? I kind of like that sort of right in there. I'll take this little bit of writing off. And then if I put this, position it here, think it'll blend nicely. Like that. Sometimes I think I should make a design that's just flowers. Well, I think I do have some like that. I do, actually, but not in this color where it's only flowers, where I could sort of fill in. And I think what I'll do is bring it up a little higher, because I think I have an idea. I'll just bring that up a little higher. I want to make sure that I get it close to the edge, so this line is not in the design, in the clay. Just pulling it over. That's what I was saying before, that rice paper is a little more forgiving as far as moving it once you get it in place. You don't want to make that your way of crafting with it, but it is a little more forgiving. Okay, so that's down. Probably use a little more glue right there. And so that looks really good. So now, though, I feel like there's a big empty space here and there's a space here. So what I could do is, I have some other papers where I could take the flowers. How would that look if I took the flowers from here? Or, I don't want to put 2 hummingbirds on there. So I did use some stamps. I have this stamp, and I had this ink pad. So I did stamp a couple of, some tissue paper. And maybe what I could do is put the word hope right here, or love. I think I like the word hope. So maybe I'll do that to fill in. And that stamp is a stamp that I used when I got married, and I made these favors. I stamped some tissue, and then I decoupaged the tissue onto rocks, and then I put them at the place settings at the tables, because we got married by a river, so it was kind of like a nature theme. So there was like these little rocks with hope, faith, and love on them. That was my first decoupage project, was those little rocks. And I might have one on my desk. I made so many. Part of the problem was I didn't sort of announce to people, like, hey, take the rocks with you. And then I think they thought they were part of the decor. So not everyone took their rocks, but so I had a bunch of rocks left over, and my sister is a substance abuse counselor, so she was like, hey, I could give them to my patients. And I was like, okay, that's great. So she took a lot of them, and I don't remember how many were left, but she gave them to her patients. All right, so here's hope. I did the same thing where I just took some water and just roughed up the edges a bit. And then I can put this here. I think that'll be nice. Here, or I could put it down here. So now I'm wishing I had put this a little lower, but that's on there, that's not moving. But I think here would be nice. Now I don't want to cover up that wing, so I'm gonna pull away a little more paper. And one of the things I want, if I had some little pearls, I have pearls like for my jewelry making, but they don't have like a flat back. and I don't think that they would last long. And something like that would be nice to embellish this. I think I need to take some of the H away. I mean, not the H itself, but the paper around it. I'll take this. Let's see. If that goes there, I think that'll look good. It's a little big, but I don't care. I'm gonna take a little bit more. A little bit more without ripping it. Okay. A little bit more by the O. Try not to rip it, but I think there's gonna have to come a point where that's good enough, and I think we've reached that point. So I'm going to put some glue down. Now this is tissue that I'm using to do this. I stamped tissue paper. So rice paper and tissue paper. Rice paper is heavier than the tissue paper. So once I put this tissue paper down, there's no moving it. So I need to make sure that I have it in the right spot, which is, I don't want to, I think that's great. Right there. Here's my plastic. All right, I think that looks good. And whenever I do that, I always like criticize, like I could have brought it over just a little more, then it would have been centered between this and this, but that's okay. And so that looks good. I like that. Now I wonder if there's room for another word here. I have the word love. Let's just lay it out and see if there's enough space. Just give it a rough. I think there is enough space. I think so. Otherwise, this is gonna look kind of blank right there. Could I even do like that? Put the L like that? Or even a little bit more. Like that. I think I like that. So I just need to take off some of this extra paper. I'm gonna use a little water. If I had room for a little bit of faith, I'd put that on there too, but you know, maybe if the faith was the size of a mustard seed, so to speak. But I don't think faith is gonna fit on here. I'm being very corny, sorry. Okay. I do have the word faith stamped over there, but I just don't think it's gonna fit. Okay. Yeah, that was a corny joke. Okay, let's get this. Maybe I can get some of this off of the L without wrecking it. I'm not using water to do this part, getting this out of the L, because I really don't want to get it too wet because then it'll, that looks good. And I do have these, I have these little tweezers. I wonder if I could just use that to take some of that out. Okay, that works. I'm just trying to get some of that paper out so it doesn't overlap over the hummingbird's tail. I'm gonna dip that into a little bit of water. Oops. Oh, can't even see what I'm doing anymore. Okay. So I think that's gonna have to be good. Otherwise it's gonna get, okay, that's gonna work. So I'm gonna put some glue down here and here. And then I'm gonna try to, like I said, once it's down, it's down. So I need to just make sure. I think that works. And okay, and that looks good. I'm not sure. A little bit of ink from the stamp. Okay. I think that looks really nice. I love the way it forms like a bit of a frame around the hummingbird with the L. Let's see. Okay, I think we need a little more glue. I'm gonna go ahead and just put everything. I think it's dry enough where I can just sort of run over the top of it with a little bit of, it's the same glue, it acts as a sealant. Just to get this down. Now this little, oops, this little bit that's hanging over the hole, I just stick my brush, give it a little twirl. And I think that looks really nice. Now, what I should do, of course, is just give this a few minutes to dry. And that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll take off the excess. If I try to do it now, I mean, I could do it now, but because it's so wet, I run the risk of ripping away the paper, and I don't want to wreck it. So we'll give it a few minutes, and then we'll come back and take away the excess paper. All right, so I figured that while I'm waiting for this to dry, I was going to work on how I was going to hang the ornament. And I think what I'm going to do is use twine and a wood bead. So I need one wood bead with a large enough hole that I can fit the twine through it so I can hang up the ornament. So I've got this bag of wood beads. And I also have paint. I thought this color matched really nicely. It's green. It really picks up the green of the leaves. But I felt like if I have a bead that actually, you know what, I actually kind of like that. It kind of pulls, you see the little bit of orange here, and there's a little orange in the bird. Oh, I didn't think I would like that, but I kind of do. And then I have this, that's a little too busy. And this is too big and yellow, but I do have blue, which is not blue. But I'm surprisingly, I like the orange. Let's see. And this is, oh, I like this too. This is a little more subtle. And it still matches and it's more subtle. Now the twine is going to be brown. But I do think it's not as vibrant as this. I mean, I like that, but this is a little more like, I don't know if subdued is the word, more subtle. But I have bold hope, so I'm going to use a bold color. All right, I like that. So this is almost dry, and I'm going to go get the twine while I'm waiting for this to dry. Okay, the piece is dry. So now I am going to just take off the excess paper. I have some 120 grit sandpaper and this wood block. And you can also use like an emery board. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. And I'm just going to just sand this, and then that comes right off. And then I'll do this side as well. And then when I do this, I'm careful not to go like this, but to go straight up and down, because I don't want to sand off my image or take off any of the, any of the color. And then this should just come right off like that. When you're sanding clay, just be careful to like not breathe in the little particles, because you don't really want to damage your lungs. And so, and I've already put a coat of sealant on here, so I think that's fine. I've got some twine here. Let's just come out a little further. And I have my bead. So what I'm going to do is just figure out the length of this twine for this. Because I'm going to probably hang it where we hang our keys, probably. Or I think I'll hang it on my tool caddy, which is where I put some of my other ornaments. So I'm going to make it a little longer so I can have a little bit to play with. I've got my scissors here. I'm going to cut it off. So it's pretty long. So what I'm going to do is put a knot here. Yeah, a knot here. And then just bring the knot all the way down like that. And then I can do this two ways. I can put the bead on one and then put a knot over the top, or I can try to get the bead through both of them. Let's see if I can get it through. It's a pretty big opening. If I can smush it through there, I can. Sometimes I do something like get a bobby pin and try to use it like a needle. But if I just push it in, push and turn, that should be enough, because it's, let's see. Yeah, it worked. And I love that with the orange bead. It really brings out the little bit of color in the flower. And so now what I'll do is just going to put another knot on top like that, and push the knot down. And then I'll put another knot all the way at the top. If you want to just make sure you're not secured, you can put a little dab of glue on it, but I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think that turned out nice. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. And if you haven't joined my Facebook decoupage group, there's a link below. There's also a link on the screen to my playlist of my air dry clay videos.